Good morning. Welcome back to Coaching Conversations. I'm Lourdes Lever.
And I am Maria Sabio. Thanks for joining us today, and be sure to watch to the end for today's daily practices. So today we're unpacking a fascinating idea from Marcus Aurelius about what it really means to be rich or well off.
Yeah, Marcus draws a clear line between what most people think of as good, wealth, luxury, status, and what truly is good. Virtues like wisdom, courage, moderation, justice, compassion.
Yeah, and he doesn't hold back. He even jokes about people being so well off, they literally have nowhere to do their business because of their excess. So let's dive into why this distinction matters deeply for our happiness and well being.
Yeah, Marcus reminds us that there are two kinds of goods, right? The true goods, which, as I mentioned, wisdom, justice, courage, compassion, and the ordinary goods, wealth, luxury, status. And this is, it's a societal thing, especially where we live, right? Where everyone is looking for those those items, the wealth, the luxury, the status, the having, the getting, the it's like what you put on your body, the shoes, the list goes on and on and on, right?
Right.
um but that really doesn't lead to, and this is what Marcus is saying, it doesn't really lead to real happiness. And psychology backs this up with the self-determination theory, which shows that intrinsic values like growth and connection lead to more happiness than extrinsic values like money and fame.
Yeah, that's why people who chase material things often end up feeling crowded and overwhelmed rather than fulfilled. I mean, we see this in our society. Actors, wealthy people, people that we think are successful are suffering from an emptiness that isn't, fulfilling our intrinsic nature. And Marcus Aurelius talks about this metaphor that he gave us: so well off that he has no place to sit and breathe, is a blunt way of saying too much of what ordinary people chase can become a real burden, not a blessing.
Yeah, it's like the hedonic treadmill, right? No matter how much you get, you adapt and then you want more. And that constant craving creates dissatisfaction. Whereas true goods like wisdom and courage are things that you can hoard or have too much of. And they don't clutter your life. In fact, Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. And virtues build on themselves without weighing us down.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people realize that they'll shop and shop and shop, and then they'll go into their closet and they'll see all these things with tags, and they still don't feel that connectedness. They don't feel fulfilled because they have an abundance of material goods, but they don't have an abundance of what really fills them. And neurologically, pursuing meaningful values activates brain areas linked to long-term well-being, supporting satisfaction and emotional regulation. Whereas chasing wealth, it triggers more fleeting dopamine spikes, which lead to cycles of craving and disappointment. So that's why people, we have these addictions like the shopping and the eating and the excess in whatever it might be. And sometimes it's even exercise or alcohol. So the truly rich person is one whose soul is full of virtue and connections, not, stuff.
Yeah, and I don't want anyone to think that Maria and I, or at least I'm not down on having nice things. It's it's good
Nice shirt
to
on.
want nice. Yes, for sure. It's good to have. It's fine. It's Of course we want to have nice things, but we're talking about when we're going into excesses, right? Remember in the 80s, there was that whole uproar about Imelda Marcos's shoes and how many shoes she had. It's like, how many pairs of shoes do you really need? How many pairs of black shoes do you really need? How many pairs of, it's like we can go into excesses, and it's good to build in some awareness and say, do I really need another black skirt? Do I really need another it's like, don't I have enough already? And coming to that point within yourself where you realize that you're seeking this satisfaction, this wanting to fill yourself up with things, but you never get full because you acquire it. It gives you a spike and you feel good for the weekend or whatever. And then next week you're back at it saying, oh, well, what am I going to get now? And it's like, no, that really isn't lasting fulfillment. And Eastern wisdom talks about this simplicity and non-attachment. This idea echoes Buddha's teaching: you only lose what you cling to. And this attachment to material goods causes suffering. And then Taoism celebrates simplicity and warns against excess, disrupting harmony.
Yeah, I think that when we do our spring cleaning, I think that that's a great example of how liberated we feel when we get to donate some of the things, some of the excess that we have. And that minimalist movement today is really a modern echo of these ancient truths. People discovering that less truly can be more, because when you shed that excess, you make room for what nourishes peace and freedom, connection, and that authentic joy.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, sometimes what you own owns you, right?
Mm.
And speaking of spring cleaning, I shifted very late my fall winter clothes. I stored them away and brought out my spring summer clothes, and I totally went shopping in my own in my own store. And I was like, wow, I haven't worn this in years. Let me see if it still fits. And I had a good time with my daughters. And of course, because I have two daughters, anything that I wasn't thrilled with anymore, they selected from. So it was fun. But yeah, it's being able to shift your values towards true wealth is liberating. And it's one thing to know. It's one thing to know this, but how do we shift from chasing ordinary goods to cultivating true ones, right? Um, we can start by reflecting. What do what do you really value? What makes you feel deeply satisfied versus temporarily pleased?
Yeah, I think that that's why a lot of people that want to shift into this fulfilling, having feelings of fulfillment, they try journaling because it focuses on virtues you've practiced. You can, focus on your patience, your courage, rather than your possessions. It makes you go inside and reflect when you journal. And so I think that that's a great practice. Obviously, I always say journaling is fantastic. Um, People also can practice saying no to wants that don't align with your deeper virtues or values. And Seneca said, it's not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poorer. And you could really let that sink in, because what you're trying to fill within you isn't something that is tangible. It's not a material, connection is not a in the dimensional world. It's a feeling, it's our emotions, it's the expressions that we have that allow us to connect to other people. Those connections and living authentic, that's what really fills us. It's not the new blouse, the new shoes, the new car, anything like that. Again, it's just temporary.
Yeah. And, this is something that comes up in my coaching practice, right? People trying to fill themselves up with material goods, acquisitions, status items, but really having that emptiness inside. And so it's like unearthing what is there, and helping them to come back to a place where they can have that fulfillment, that inner satisfaction and authenticity to who they truly are versus who they're wanting or pretending to be for the world, right?
Right, because we learn to be tough and hide our emotions. To be resilient is a good quality, but it's not a good quality when it's a detriment to you. If you're not looking at what is that void within you, then there's nothing that you can actually purchase that will fill the void within you. That void within you is something that you need to, as you said, excavate, look inside, and deal with what's going on, shift your perspective again, because that's really such a huge tool to, to learn how to shift how you interpret what has happened in the past, so that it empowers you instead of it continues to disempower you, and in many cases leads you to such huge debt that that becomes the next thing that is overwhelming you. So dealing with your emotions can actually be a financial windfall, because you learn how to save, right? You learn how to practice for the future, have value right now, live in the present moment, and enrich yourself, as opposed to trying to chase that happiness.
Yes, excellent, Maria. So true. And it's never too late to do this work. I was speaking to a group of women recently, older women, older than me. I'm older too. Um, but it's bringing to light these seeds that were planted in childhood, these seeds of belief that can sometimes lead to these feelings of lack of value, lack of worthiness, not being enough, just from what we experienced and how we interpreted events in our childhood. And so then we grow up as an adult and we have these beliefs, and those beliefs are driving our behavior. And sometimes that can look like, shopping all the time and acquiring and acquiring and acquiring in order to try to feel better, to get those little bumps. But ultimately, you're in the same boat over and over again, day after day. But did you want to add something to that, Maria? Should we move on to the daily practices?
Let's go. Let's give them the daily practice.
Okay, so here's your practice for today. List 3 virtues or true goods you want to nurture, like courage, justice, fairness, wisdom. And notice when you crave material things, and instead of, acting right away, pause and ask yourself, will this bring lasting joy? Another is to reflect on the phrase, Some people are so poor, all they have is money. And consider for yourself, what does excess feel and look like in your own life? And then commit to one small action that aligns with your values over material gain.
Right. Remember, richness is measured by your soul's health, not your bank account. So we'll leave you with this reminder. Let me pull that up for you. Happiness is not having what you want, but wanting what you have. So choose true wealth, virtues that fill your soul, not clutter your life. When you can ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly rich inside? And share one virtue you're nurturing today.
And I think the virtue that I'm going to nurture today is patience. More patience in my life. What about you, Maria?
I really like wisdom. So I think that that's my favorite. I love reading. I love expanding my knowledge. And I think I'll work on that one today.
Nice. So thank you so much for being here. Keep growing your true riches. We're walking this path right alongside you. Take care of your mind, take care of yourself, and support our work by liking, following, and subscribing. And if you'd like personalized support, book a consult. Find the link in the description, and we'll see you next time.